Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ask Mike Anything. I realize the irony of saying that immediately when we come on because not everybody is there right away, and that's okay. While you are logging in, I'm going to check my audio
to
here.
ask Mike.
Hey, look, that's working. So I'm just going to hang out here for a minute while you guys start commenting in your questions for tonight. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with me on Monday nights and asking your questions. As always, I have some random sort of prepared questions. I have my journal from when I was 11 to read. Yeah, I hope everybody's doing okay. Oh, hey, Clarky Claremont. All right off the bat. Favorite musician or band of all time? All time. Ooh. People are going to give me crap for it, but that's all right. I really, wow. I like the Beatles. I like Elvis. I like AC/DC. The greatest, best, favorite musician or band of all time. Man. Probably I would have to go. Yeah, I'd probably go AC/DC. Like, if there's gonna be a soundtrack to my life, I want it to be from AC/DC. So I'll take that. Thanks, Clarky. Good question. Metallica would also work, I think. But like, if I have my kids in the car, AC/DC is, for whatever reason, a little easier than Metallica to to get away with. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I'll leave this open for comment for you folks. You can let me know. So after worship yesterday, my dad FaceTimes me, and apparently it bothers him that when I do the blessing at the end, I just raise one hand in blessing. He says by doing it one-handed, I'm only blessing like half the people. That I should raise both hands in blessing. What do you think? Is one hand okay? Should it be two? Maybe I'll try two. I don't know that it's going to make much difference. For like it's a symbol, right? There's not magic coming out of my hand, I don't think. I like the idea of the double. It shows off my tattoos, which cool for me, but yeah. So anybody's thoughts on that are appreciated. But I don't, I don't know that I see a lot of double-handed blessers at the for the benediction. Yeah. All right. Other questions? Ooh, I just got an email from YouTube, and the thumbnail they put, they decided on for this Ask Me Anything is not flattering. I did really like your dad, Clark. Your dad was a good dude. Galatians 2:20. It's a great verse. Let me flip to it so we have it all right. But this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is I am crucified with Christ. Let's see. I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but it is Christ who lives in me. In the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. So without doing intense background on Galatians, I mean, quite just looking at the face value of that verse, it is a connection that in Christ, as we follow Christ, we follow with the good and we follow with the suffering. In the life we live as Christians, as people who follow Christ, isn't necessarily supposed to. We're not supposed to just view it as our life, but rather the continuation of Christ's life in us. So really, that's kind of the gist of it, right? When we're following Christ, it's not about ourselves. It's about the life of Christ extended and continuing, living through us. And that life of Christ is, as we know, is very much driven by other people, by healing other people, by helping other people, by bringing grace and forgiveness and love to other people. And that's kind of the hard thing these days to get consistently in our minds, in our culture. We do a lot of stuff that is about us. Sometimes even when we're giving charitably, it tends to be about how it makes us feel, as opposed to being just the right thing. Now, and it's weird because giving does make you feel good. But sometimes we give just for that feeling, and that's where it gets to be tricky. But the life we live, for those of us who follow Christ, is supposed to be about living out Christ's life, responding like Christ would. What would Jesus do was the big thing in the late 90s, early 2000s, when I was coming up. And while it was catchy and cliche and all of those things, it was absolutely true. When we encounter the things we encounter in life, it is really about asking, what would Christ do in this position? If Christ was confronted with this, what we know of Jesus, this person we read about in the Gospels, what would he do in that situation? How would he react? How would he show love and grace and mercy? And as long as we're doing that, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. But good question, Clarky. I miss your dad, by the way. Have you ever thought of getting the band back together? Yes, quite frequently. I miss having a band. In particular, the more talented musicians who could, cover over my little strumminess on the guitar. I always hope to meet some musicians that are willing to get together and do things. Like COVID, you can't. But like I'm hoping post-COVID, or at least, post-vaccine, I'll find some musicians to get together with and play with. It's always more fun when you have other people to play with. And tell you guys about the song New Mercy. So New Mercy was a song I wrote 16, 17 years ago. I so back then I was listening to a lot of Chris Rice, and he had a song called "Smelling Coffee" that talked about God's mercy creeping in with the morning light, and or streaming in with the morning light. And I just I love that image of mercy and God's mercy being new every day. You know, God waking up and not holding the past against us, kind of idea. And so that led to the song "New Mercy," that is my dad's favorite song that I wrote. He even did a put a little music video together of it that's somewhere on YouTube, and you can find that, I guess, if you really want to. Um, but yeah, one of the things I'm hoping in 2021 is to get to writing more music. I have lately. Braylee likes to do the hokey pokey, and so we'll do the hokey pokey, and then she wants me to just play some chord progressions while she makes up lyrics. And that's been kind of getting the creative juices flowing a little bit for me. So, so yeah. What is my vision of heaven, and what would I like it to be? And I'm gonna be really honest with you. I don't think about it a whole lot. There was a good part of my life where I thought about heaven was the escape from the hell of this life. And while I wholeheartedly agree with the notion that hell is something we make on earth, um, I don't want my motivations for ministry and for following Christ to be those of some eternal reward. So I don't really think about it too much. When I do think about it, it is almost always in the context of those that I've lost. My grandfathers, my son, friends who have died and gone on. And for me, it's being able to have the time without the worry, to be able to know all the things I want to know, to be able to see all the people I want to see, and not have there be a clock on anything. Kind of like that. But as far as fluffy clouds, streets of gold, no. Being in the presence of God and being with the people I love. That's the long and short of it for me. Aw. Yeah, call me a role model, Clarky. That's sweet, buddy. I appreciate that. I loved hanging out with you, dude. I really did, and playing music with you. My musical inspiration. Can I be perfectly honest? I was one of those guys in college that wanted to learn to play guitar to meet girls. I mean, I've always wanted to learn to play guitar, but the impetus for getting my first guitar and that was potential, you know, girls. But yeah, I love. Let's see. Back then would have been a whole lot of Green Day. Yeah, a whole lot of Green Day, and you know, AC/DC. Let's see. Here we go. What's the first thing you do when everything is open? Whew. I'm gonna incorporate, Robert. I'm gonna incorporate everything is everything. Like everything is open. This is presuming I can hug people. I will hug people. A lot. It will be awkward. Probably on the last Ask Mike Anything before something like that happens. I will, you know, give out a safe word so that when it's gotten too awkward, people can disengage. Let's see. Is Monkey Shoulder considered Scotch, bourbon, or gin? I'm pretty sure the Monkey Shoulder is Scotch. I haven't seen a Monkey Shoulder bourbon. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure when I was drinking Monkey Shoulder, it was back in my long Scotch phase. But bourbon is the lady I dance with these days. Oh, Robert, good question. How did you get chosen to open up Islands of Adventure? So, for those of you that don't have context for that question, I posted a video from memories from 3 years ago. We were at Universal Studios. I think we had 3 or 4 days there, and one morning we got chosen to go into the park a little bit early, and the kids got to do the little open script and open the park. And I have it on video, obviously, and it's on Facebook. It was just a random thing. The kids were old enough, and well, Michaela was old enough, and Braylee was brave enough, I guess, that like we could handle doing all day in the park. And so we wanted to be there right when they opened, get our money's worth out of the the stuff, and I think that was our second or third day there, and they just came up and asked us. We'd seen people do it. They came up and asked us. We thought it was really cool. They also, if you get chosen, like they give you the park photo pass for the day, which we had already purchased, but and you get like a 30-second head start into the park. But it was a lot of fun. The kids got a kick out of it, and they got a kick out of watching it. Let's see. Disney or Universal, what's your favorite ride? How does Cedar Point compare? I honestly, I'm a bigger fan of Universal than Disney. But I don't have the attachment to the princesses my girls do. So, but I really like Harry Potter World and all that stuff. But I like Disney too because it's got all the Star Wars stuff. So there's, yeah. Favorite ride at Universal when we were there. The favorite ride with the ages of the kids was the the hippogriff, the flying hippogriff ride was a lot of fun. We rode that a lot. The one we rode the most was the Cat in the Hat because nobody was in line. Braylee loved it. I think we rode it 67 times. And let's see. So Disney, my favorite would be Expedition Everest at the Animal Kingdom. Phenomenal roller coaster. How does Cedar Point compare? It doesn't. Cedar Point is an amusement park. It's got the rides. There's a whole lot more magic with Disney and Universal. Yeah. All right. To trail off your dad, I always think, is there football in heaven? Yep. So I love football. Then again, I've heard heaven is to be greater than anything we know, even football. I think, honestly, so here's the thing is I love football. I played football. I love watching football. But there's also very much a gladiatorial kind of bent to it. And sometimes it appeals to our worst natures, our worst nature. So I don't know. I don't know about football in heaven. Maybe without concussions or injury, it'll be better. I don't know. What age are people when you meet them in heaven? Where you left them? The age they want to be? That is a great question. And I don't know the answer. And I can say with a fair amount of certainty that the Christian Bible does not speak to it. King David lost a son, the son he had with Bathsheba, and in his lament, there was talk of knowing that he'll see his son again. Whether that is, in some grown-up form or as a baby, I don't know. And I got to tell you, Robert, that's been something I've thought about. As we lost our son when he was 19 months old, and I can't really imagine him as. I mean, I can add some age to it. I can think about, approximate what the girls looked like at his ages as he's would have progressed, but and then put a boy haircut on, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. There's also been some imagining in my head, at least there used to be, of the ability to see all that potentially was, right? Like you can watch your whole life or the whole history of the universe, and what happens if a different decision is made, right? It becomes your own choose your own adventure heaven, where you get to see how things play out with different things. But yeah. Escanaba in the Moonlight or Godfather of Green Bay? I go Godfather of Green Bay. Mainly because both our names are in the credits, Pops. Oh no, not Godfather. Yeah, Godfather. No. Was it? Yeah, it was Godfather of Green Bay. Okay. Trying to remember. All right. How's your relationship with Zero B Rad, my brother? As far as I know, he's doing well. We don't talk as much as we probably should. There is, I actually 2 summers ago I saw him at a wedding. Before that, it wasn't. The last time I saw him was when Braylee was born. He doesn't travel down here much. I don't get up there much. Once in a while we talk online. That's about it. I try. We have one of those relationships where, without trying too hard, I can make him very mad. And even sometimes without trying at all. And then he unfriends me and we don't talk for 6 months. So I try to let him approach me. But I'm very proud of him. He's got some great internet businesses going up where he's at, and has a wonderful fiance, and yeah, doing really well. So, all right. If Tom Brady played for the Packers, would he make them a better team, or would they make him suck? Dave, buddy. Honestly, this is the bigger question for me. Could I still root for the Packers if Tom Brady played for them? Like, I understand. I'll give in. He is phenomenal. But just not a fan. And I don't know why. Maybe it is the I don't like seeing people who win so much, but yeah, I don't know. Chances are he would make them better. He's a dang good quarterback. I'll leave it at that. What's the best type of carpet on the market? Clarky, it has been so stinking long since I have done anything with carpet. I have not kept up with the industry. Clark, for those of you that don't know, Clark was one of my kids in youth group, he was the lead guitar player in my band when I had my band, and one of the things I did way back in the day to make ends meet was I worked at a flooring company. I sold carpet and linoleum and laminate and hardwood and all that, and tile and all that stuff. And yeah, I still like a nice tight frise, I guess. It's the non-looped carpet, but that's got a really fine tight twist to it. So, all right, keep asking your questions. I'm going to go to a card. Is cereal soup? Why or why not? Braylee, help me out with this one. Come here. Is cereal, like cereal with milk on it, is that soup?
Sort of.
Why is it sort of soup?
It's sort of soup because you can mix it, and it's sort of like, and it has milk in it, so you can mix it.
So it's like ingredients suspended in liquid, which is soup, but it's cold.
Not warm.
Right. Does soup have to be hot?
No.
No.
If you eat it out of the can and you don't warm it, then it doesn't have to be warm. I did that once.
You're eating soup just out of the can?
Not forever.
All right, so there you have it, folks. Cereal is a soup. Thanks, Braylee. Thanks, Braylee. A sort of soup, yes. What is my favorite movie? It's kind of hard. Right off the cuff, The Princess Bride. That is just kind of like absolute blanket. If I have to move beyond The Princess Bride to something else, it's probably going to be I'm probably going to go with Serenity, the movie culmination of the Firefly series. From Robert, what's tougher, one overnight youth group lock-in or volunteering for 6 months in the baby toddler room? Oh, there are pros and cons to both of those. One overnight youth group lock-in can feel like 6 months, depending on your youth. I would probably go with the one overnight. 6 months in the baby toddler room is going to be tougher, depending on how many babies and toddlers you have in that congregation. But yeah, one overnight youth group lock-in, I think I could handle. I could recover from that easier than 6 months in the baby toddler room. How do reavers clean their blades? Oh, Todd. Of course they wash them. So here's I don't know if you guys have seen. There's a TV show called The Rookie with Nathan Fillion, who was in Firefly and in the Serenity movie. And there is an episode of that where Alan Tudyk, who plays Wash on the Firefly and Serenity, is in it, and they have them playing off of each other quite a bit in that one episode, and it was just quite a lot of fun to see them together again in a different universe. So. Yes, run them through the wash. Yes. So, all right, other questions? Keep them coming.
Tell me if there are questions for me.
Will do, kiddo. How difficult and/or important is it to limit your child's time on electronic devices during the pandemic? Alternatives. So it is important. A lot of what they're doing in school is electronic, but there's also a reality of sanity for everybody in the house. So I'd be honest, our kids have probably had a lot more screen time than they should. Um, Alternatives take a lot of energy, and we are living and working in the same space, and that gets tough. But one of the things, actually, it happened today, way back when. I can't remember the name of the show. It's on Netflix. It's all about chess. When that came out, it sparked in me to get out a chessboard, and then I couldn't find a chessboard like with all the pieces, and so I bought one, and have been waiting for Michaela to tell me she's ready to learn. And today she was. We spent 90 minutes working on the very, very basics of chess. But it flew by. It flew by. And she did pretty well. Like, I had to talk her through a lot of things. And that made me not pay attention. So I made a couple big mistakes. I still beat her, of course, because, I'm not going to lose on purpose. But Queen's Gambit. That's it. Thanks, Clarky. But it was a lot of fun, and she seemed to really like it. Once she got over, there were points where, like, she knew she was going to have to make a move that demanded the sacrifice of a piece. And there would be tears welling up in her eyes. And there were times that, like, she had to sacrifice a piece to make a good move. But she still, tears in her eyes. But games are a good alternative. We, for our kids, for their birthdays, the last few years, we've gotten them subscriptions to Tinker Crates. So once a month, they get a box that has 1 to 3 different activities in it, and they build things, and they learn about engineering or art or those kinds of things. So, yeah. So those kinds of things are good too. Dave wants to know, do we have free will, or are all of our actions predetermined? Why they let Presbyterians use the internet, I don't know. No, it's a joke. I'm a free will guy. I believe we have choice, and I believe that for love to exist, choice has to exist. Can we look at things and see, like, oh yeah, that was bound to happen? Yeah. We can kind of make some good educated guesses, but for predetermination to be a thing kind of makes God a bit of a jerk sometimes, if I'm being honest. If that's the thing, the God predestines who goes to heaven, who goes to hell. I mean, I get it. We can talk around the theology of it. It just comes out as jerky if that's a predetermined thing. So, Robert wants to know, Team Kong or Team Godzilla? I am a fan of both gigantic creatures. But who's going to win in a fight? Kong has always seemed much more nimble to me than Godzilla. Godzilla kind of is stiff, so I'd probably go Kong. But I was a big Godzilla fan growing up. Do you believe it's possible that Christians on Earth can see demons on Earth, or is it in their head, or just not possible? I think biblically, a lot of things that were categorized as demonic possession, we have clinical, medical, psychological diagnoses for today. Can we see evil on Earth? For sure. Demons like they're portrayed in the movies and things, I don't know. I guess it's possible. I wouldn't rule it out, but it's not something I have necessarily experienced. Question for Braley. What do you enjoy most about helping your dad with on the Sunday service? All right, let me grab her. Hey, Bray. Is this about Todd? Is this why not both?
Yeah.
This question come down to a question of perspective. Is that about King Kong and Godzilla? I don't know. Clarify for me. Grandpa wants to know, what do you enjoy most about helping out with on when we do our stuff for Sunday? What's your favorite part when you help out in Daddy's service?
Of children's message?
Children's message or reading stuff?
I pretty much like children's message because we sometimes get to like pop in, and the surprise most of the time is us just staying and we don't pop in.
So for Braley, the big part, she likes the green screen where they can pop in, and I do some video effects and make them do silly things. So that's her favorite part, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
See you later.
If you have any more, tell me and tell Kayla.
Oh yeah, your question was in reply to David's about free will or predestination. Sure, there could be a mix. I'll let you two duke that one out. Did I hear there's going to be a food truck coming to St. Matthews soon? Possibly April. It's going to depend on weather. But yeah, this morning on Fun with Faith, I mentioned how excited I got when my friend Sheena, who has the Little Caesars pizza truck in the area, said, "Hey, can we start scheduling stuff in April?" And I'm like, "Yep." I miss those times of gathering. Yeah, Todd, there can definitely be a mix of free will and predestination. Predestination gets into some areas of that kind of take away from, like, if it's predestined that something happens, why bother moving towards it? And I know I've had the conversation with Dan. I know it's an oversimplification, but I guess it's time for that conversation again. I usually feel better about it after I talk to Dan about it, so maybe I'll schedule a chat. How many things in the Bible would not be as miraculous in today's time? Like I mentioned earlier, some of the demon possession stuff might be less miraculous. The casting out of the demons would be fairly miraculous, though. Imagine having crushing depression, and Jesus comes along and with a word can take it away. That's fairly miraculous in my book. So I think the miraculous things would still be pretty miraculous. But I think the point of those stories aren't necessarily the miracles themselves, but the reality of that message is about God's love. That God loves us, cares about us, wants us to be well. Cares about the physicality of things, not just the spirituality of things, which, you know, could be problematic in those days of, thinking that that God is only concerned with the spiritual. So, good question. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go to a card. Let's see. Which celebrity chef would you most like to make you dinner? That's going to be Gordon Ramsay all the way. Because here's the thing. He is like highly critical of so many people that I would love for him to actually make me dinner and see if like it is as night and day out of this world as he claims. When Bree and I went to England in 2016, we went to one of Gordon's flagship restaurants in at the Savoy, and ordered the Taste of the Savoy, which is like multiple courses. They're small portions, but getting a taste of all of the things that make Gordon Ramsay, Gordon Ramsay, the beef Wellington and the risotto and all the stuff, and we were not impressed. But to have like Gordon actually cook a meal in front of me and how it's absolutely supposed to be according to him, I would love to see that. If heaven is for all, are people automatically in and we have to work to get out? Or does no one get in automatically and we need faith to get there? Yeah. That's a probably a longer conversation. Long and short of it for me is essentially this, that for people who are looking for heaven, for people who want to be there, who want to live in the midst of all the things we talk about as God's grace and mercy and love and all of those things. For them, heaven's going to be heaven. It's going to be great. But if there are people who don't want that, who don't like that, to be in the presence of that is going to be rather hellish. So it doesn't, it's not necessarily the fire and brimstone of it. One of the examples I've heard used is the story of the prodigal son. And when you get to the end of the prodigal son, which you have as a party going on, the father's excited that the lost son has come back. He throws a big party, and in the midst of that party, it is a celebration. It is heaven, let's say. You have the brother who stayed home. And for him, that whole party is hell. It is hell on earth. It's a party for everybody, but it's hell for him. Because his heart's not in tune with what's going on. And so I have a feeling like if our heart is in tune with what God's got going on, then heaven's going to be heaven. I do not believe, Dave, in an eternal conscious torment, in a forever hell. But I do believe for people who don't believe in God to die and find out there's an afterlife, that's going to be hellish enough. And I think that in that space, in that midst, in the story of the prodigal son, the father talks to the other brother and seeks to bring him into the party. I think there is, even for people for whom heaven is not heaven, it's a hellish thing. I think God is still trying to work on bringing them around. It's kind of where I go. But again, as I mentioned earlier, what comes next is not always on the forefront of my mind. What we're doing here and now is how we are loving each other, how we are making our lives better, how we're building the kingdom here. If you had a time machine, what 3 things would you ask Jesus? Asking Jesus questions never worked out too well. If it was like I get to play truth or dare with Jesus and he picks a truth, Yeah, that might not even work out well. I would probably ask some of the same questions about the meaning of life, about what comes next. But there's also a part of me that's like, I would really just like to hang out. Um, cook some fish on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, and just enjoy that presence, that time together. Because again, asking Jesus questions doesn't always turn out the greatest, and the questions I would ask, I don't know that I want to know the answer to. Right? I don't want the ending spoiled, I guess. And Dad, I don't know what that is in reference to. Maybe Dave's question. But yes, salvation is by grace through faith in Christ. It's Ephesians 2, 8, and 9, if you want to look it up. But yeah, going back, Robert. Man, I don't know that I would ask. How's it going? If you had it to do over again, would you incarnate Advent into a century that had roller coasters? Stuff, I probably stuff like that. I would want to know more about life, about purpose, I guess. It definitely, I don't think, would come down to questions of heaven and afterlife for me. Because I think what comes next, we don't have a lot of control over. Because imagine, right? So every cartoon growing up that depicted heaven or what's next was angels and harps and clouds and diapers and absolute utter boredom for me. Right? You get your wings and you get your halo, and no, boredom. There isn't a whole lot of description in the Bible when it comes to heaven. It talks about new heavens, new earth. We get some crystal sea imagery, some golden streets imagery, but those are all within the context of very specific types of literature that are written for very specific reasons to specific people. So we end up with, when Jesus talked about the kingdom of heaven, he talked about things very, very close. He talked about the kingdom of heaven being like a man who finds a treasure in a field. Talked about the kingdom of heaven being like things here. And so really when we're talking about what comes next, is there an end to all things, all that kind of stuff, what we end up talking about really from a biblical perspective, if there is such a thing, is something that is here, that is a restored creation, not some far off heaven. If you look at the Old Testament, look what ancient Hebrews were concerned about when it comes to the end of their life. It's that their lineage goes on. It's that there's land and prosperity. It's not about some far off heaven. Yeah. What if when we get to heaven and have a question, God tells us to Google it? That'd be one heck of a Google, I would guess. God's servers have much more information than our internet does. When Jesus rose to the clouds to prepare a place for us, was that metaphor or a real experience? So the ascension and going to prepare a place for us, two different parts of Scripture. That's Jesus going to prepare a place for us is John 14. Ascension is Acts chapter 1. Two very different scriptures written to different groups of people for different reasons. But when Jesus is talking in John 14 about going to prepare a place, there are undertones there of actually first century marriage ritual, in that a husband who is betrothed to a wife or betrothed, right, would go prepare a place for them. Usually what that meant was adding a floor or adding a space onto the family home, the parents or the parents and the grandparents. So yeah, there's probably some metaphor there. Just some, but preparing a place, yeah, it was probably a whole lot more metaphor, rather than real experience. I don't imagine Jesus like hiking up to the big house and like pulling out a hammer and nails and building rooms, because he already said, in my Father's house there are many rooms. So anyway, Robert, why are you not a fan of Rick Warren? Is there a mega pastor you like better? I wouldn't say that I'm not a fan of Rick Warren. He's a good dude, and some of the stuff he's written was valid, just not universally applicable. So purpose-driven church, purpose-driven life, things in there weren't always applicable to everybody or every church. But as far as mega church pastors go, I'm not a fan of any of them, even the good ones. Like Adam Hamilton is about as close as I would get to be like, all right, he seems pretty squared away. But I have a problem with even smaller churches that spend oodles and oodles of money upkeeping buildings, maintaining their faith museums. When there is so much that could be done with those resources to help people. That's kind of my deal. You have especially with the mega pastors who talk about or who have jets. That's ridiculous. Need to fly commercial to stay away from the demons or whatever the nonsense is. That's ridiculous. The pastors that got $2,000 sneakers, that's ridiculous. There is a whole lot of suffering that could be alleviated, and I don't think that's, if we're really trying to follow Jesus, I don't think that's what's going on. So, but if I had to pick a mega pastor, it would probably be Adam Hamilton. Just because he seems like one of the most down to earth, I guess, out of the ones available. What's up with Joseph? His role in life seems to be almost non-existent in the Bible. As far as Joseph, the stepdad of Jesus, Yes, we don't see a whole lot of him in the Gospels. There isn't much of him outside the Gospels either. But there also isn't a whole lot about the rest of Jesus' family. We get some stuff with Mary, of course, but we don't even get a whole lot about her. We get the birth narrative, we get Cana, we get her at the cross, but that's about it. So there's not a lot there, and part of that may have been, and the rest of his family, his brothers and sisters. We don't get that. I think partially initially to protect them, but yeah. 1 second. I don't know if you heard it, but I had my daughters laying on the floor back here whispering, and it was a little distracting. But yeah, a lot of Jesus' family doesn't show up. So, all right. I'm gonna say, like, I have churches with buildings, and boilers, and heating systems and water systems that act up. I don't have a problem with buildings in general, but when they become a burden, more of a burden than a blessing to the community around them, to the community that supports them, then I do have an issue. Because you can't, I spent 15 years in youth ministry, within churches that had plenty of budget to fix a roof, put in new carpet, all those other things. But when it came to youth ministry, they didn't have the budget. You got to figure out your own thing. You got to do your own fundraising. You got to figure out how to pay for that. And not just youth ministry, but any ministry, any new thing that's going to cost a little more money, was always backburnered for the building. And so I guess that's where that comes in. As long as ministry is being done, and you got a church with a bum boiler, and boilers are unfortunate ways of heating buildings, but hey, that's what we got. And you got to do it. Yeah, that's, as long as ministry is going on, the majority of the time, it's all right. Do you think churches will have more butts in the pews once the pandemic is over? Will people be more apt to join together in praise? Ooh. It's interesting. It's an interesting question, because I have read, I've read quite a bit actually about some of the things that are expected to happen. So prior to the pandemic, most churches had people who felt regular attendance was once or twice a month. Not every Sunday, not every time the church doors are open, but once or twice a month they're at worship. The research that's being done and the things I've read have said that's going to drop to once a month, or possibly just not at all. In Michigan right now, the latest I heard was we're talking possibly October by the time the vaccine is available to the general public. We're to a phase where anybody who wants it can get it, right? Which is nearly going to put us at practically the 2-year mark. And as churches open, I know what a lot of them are finding, especially those that have found a way to do an online presence as well as in person, that a lot of people aren't showing up, that people are playing it safe. And I have a feeling some people are going to continue to play it safe, because the other reports we see is that the vaccine, even though you get it, you still need to be careful. You still need to wear a mask. You still need to social distance. The other piece that's going to happen is there may be an influx in the beginning, but when you have to wear a mask and you're not really supposed to sing, or if you are singing, you're singing in a mask, and you're not really hugging and high-fiving and shaking hands and having the fellowship, the exchange of things that you're used to in a worship service, or what follows a worship service. People are gonna, I think, do different things. Oh, it is bedtime for Braylee.
Night, night, Daddy.
Good night, my darling. Love you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you need your gummy. All right, here we go. Sorry. There you go. Chew it fast. Can you get that? Thank you. Hey, that's life. So yeah, I think I would love to see an influx, but I think we're going to see, before we see a spike in a revival, I think we're going to see more decline, and more rapidly, unfortunately. But then I think at some point there's going to be a spike when things are safer. Can people trace their family tree to Mary and Joseph? I'm sure they can. I've never done it myself, but I'm sure there's a possibility of doing that. Yeah. All right. So we are over an hour. I wasn't watching the time too close. Quick. I'm going to do 2 journal entries from when I was 11, which is the age Michaela is now. November 19th, 1990. I had a substitute teacher and had a lot of work, but I had fun anyway. I saw my Uncle Mark and Aunt Beth, and I also saw their dogs, Kelsey and Magnum. And apparently I could not decide the appropriate spelling of Magnum. November 20th, 1990, Dominic Godfrey got in a lot of trouble at school. He had to stay in every recess. I had a substitute teacher again. One more on this page. November 21st, 1990, I had a substitute teacher again. I had my first basketball practice this year today. Yes, folks, there was a time when I played basketball. I wasn't really good at it, though. I appreciate all your questions. I appreciate you joining me here tonight. Thank you for that. Remember, Fun with Faith is on Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. and Bible study Thursday night at 6:30. It'd be great to have you. Please let me know if you have things you'd like me to pray for. You can put them in the comments here, or message me. And yeah, have a great night.